All right, so package just came in the mail. I tried removing the tag on the front as best I could, but didn't want to come off that easily, so I'm like, screw it, I'll just open it up without revealing the address as best I can. Don't need that no more. Opening up the little package on the inside. And there we have it. This is gonna make sense to everybody who's probably watching in a second. If you haven't, a parcel came in the mail. I just opened it now. Little receiver was in the box. This is gonna make sense after I explain the rest of the story. So stay tuned and transition now. That just doesn't feel natural to say anymore. The what's up, everybody? No. Okay, and we are back in with another podcast. Today I'm doing a solo one solely for the matter of mostly this is just a test drive predominantly because how do I explain this as easily and as simplified as possible? So the most recent podcast that myself and Rima had recorded, I didn't really take into account anything audio related. Like, I'm pretty sure if you guys watch back that footage, you'll see that Audacity is running in the background and it's picking up both of our audios simultaneously on two different channels. But at that point, I wasn't 100%, not say I wasn't 100% aware of it, but I guess in a way I didn't pay it much attention at all. So that's a thing. And then after that day, it was like I didn't try. No, that's a lie. I did in fact actually, when I threw all between the audio and the video content onto DaVinci, and I tried to see if I could split the left and right channel, it didn't work, and it just acted up or whatever the hell. And I didn't think too much of it at first. At least that time when I'd recorded with Rima, because at that point I was more concerned with just trying to get the audio edited at best. Because like, if it was already recorded and there's no way to properly split it, I'm like, there's no way to split audio that's already been recorded on one channel, like two different hosts on one channel. You can't really split it unless it's set up initially to record on one channel and or the other channel. So I didn't pay a huge lot of mind to it. I just tried to see what I could do. I tried going on to like the YouTube tutorials, see if I could break that down. Unfortunately, to no avail, I wasn't able to figure it out. So I just charged it to the game and went on my day. And then the most recent podcast that I ended up doing with my buddy Mikey, from my colleague from work, I ended up recording a podcast with him since he was already coming by to pick something else up for me at the time. And whatever I assumed I had set up initially in terms of between the Audacity recording software and everything else I'd tried playing with, I thought I'd had it figured out. So when I recorded with him, unfortunately, it still did the same damn thing it had done when me and Rima were playing the card game and recording that audio. So it didn't work out the way I was hoping it would. And again, I spent the better part of that evening trying to rack my brain, figure out what I was missing in terms of how to set up Audacity to record two different separate channels. And not for nothing, it is extremely basic. There's not anything complicated. It's, as long as you know where your plugins are sitting, the setting up of preferences is the least complicated thing ever. And I racked my brain trying to understand or figure out what the solution could have been for what was it that I was missing? Like, I went on various YouTube videos. I went into it, even in half of YouTube videos, they said, oh, go into the Windows settings themselves and see if there's anything that needs to be tweaked or altered, and nothing across the board. I made sure the laptop itself was up to date. checked out to make sure the settings were correct, especially when it was plugged in. Nada. Nothing was gonna give from this situation. So I just chucked it up to being like, okay, I could that night I gave up immediately. And I'm like, okay, what am I missing here? And I think it was, and I believe it was the day after I decided to basically go onto my desktop this time around. And the interesting thing about my desktop is, since I now realistically, whenever I record a podcast, I like to have the computer with me when I'm recording for the audio's sake. The desktop doesn't have any audio recording software. Well, now it does, but it didn't at that point in time. After having done the podcast with Mike, I literally went to download Audacity again onto my desktop, but I found out that apparently there's a new host app that comes along with Audacity. I didn't pay it any mind. I downloaded the host software first, then downloaded Audacity from the host software specifically, almost similar to that of like Adobe. Yeah. Water break, 1 second. Getting parched just trying to explain this story. As I was saying, so I downloaded the host, which is the host software, and then installed, and then downloaded, and then installed Audacity from that point. Kind of similar to the way Adobe Creative Suite works, where like you have all these programs underneath one umbrella. I think even Microsoft Word is doing the same damn thing with the Microsoft 365 or whatever. My point being, I download the host software, download the direct Audacity to the computer itself. I set up the new Anchor work tech on it, and I put dual channel, like I put 2 mono channels, and I gave one Anchor mic to remote one, and one Anchor mic I used for myself. And by golly, it worked. The audio was actually separating left and right properly. No crumbs whatsoever. And it literally boggled my mind. I'm like, what was it about this that made it different? What's the difference between this time around versus the last time around? And then it occurred to me, the fact that I downloaded the host software alongside Audacity. So I guess this was kind of like when your modem stops working, you just unplug it from the power and then plug it back in kind of thing, like uninstall, reinstall type of situation. Went onto the laptop, this laptop in particular, uninstalled Audacity, went online, found the same software I downloaded onto the desktop with the host and Audacity, downloaded those two, then download Audacity, and lo and behold, it worked. And I was happy about that. And then I discovered something quite interesting, actually. You see, let me just try to stick this thing back in there. On the Anchor box itself, what I didn't take note of was on the back side, I'm not going to really zoom in, but if you, basically on the back side of the actual box that it came with, is actually a website URL that I can travel to then download the actual software for the Anchor mics we use. Thinking to myself, okay, what are the odds that this was not a software issue, but not necessarily a computer software issue necessarily. Well, no, because I had actually already figured that part out, because like I figured out that it was already recording properly. I'm like, okay. And then I start thinking, and then I'm like, okay, now that everything's up to snuff, between my desktop records audio properly again, and my desktop's recording audio properly again, I'm like, okay, cool. And then that's when I recognized that the box at the back of the Anchor actually has a website to download software. And I started thinking to myself, like, well, it's hardware technically, and even whether it be a laptop, a desktop, or your phone, typically you'd have to like do software updates one way or the other. There's no real way to avoid that factor unless you want your to like, because after a while of not updating your software, the system starts to kind of like act up and fail on you in one capacity or another. So I figured, you know what, I don't need my hardware that remote ended up investing in crapping out. went on the website, downloaded the actual software for the Anchor product itself, downloaded it, and then plugged it in. Lo and behold, there's a couple updates that the actual hardware was missing. Now, I want you guys to like this is the Anchor. I'll probably go as close as I can for you guys. So on the box itself, the Anchor receiver actually indicates left and right audio. Like you can see, like the full screen is there's like going on the screen. The activity being picked up on the device itself from just the display of what the box is showing you and what the receiver is supposed to do. For whatever reason, after I had downloaded the software for the actual receiver or for the actual product itself, and I updated the firmware on the actual product, didn't think anything of it too much. But then when I went back to basically pick up the actual receiver in my hand to look at it, the whole display screen on the Anchor receiver was glowing as if it was basically saying it's active, but it didn't indicate anything at all. Anything at all. And in my head, I'm thinking to myself, like, what the just happened? So I instead I decided, no, how about let me try that. Let me see if it's an update thing or something or another. Nope, not at all. Now I'm thinking to myself, okay, crap, does it still work though, is the main question. Thankfully, I plugged it in and it did. In fact, like it was still like I booted up Audacity, I recorded, and for that time being, it was in fact recording properly. Like between myself and Rima, it still recorded audio, and I was like, okay, that's fine. So the display isn't working, but it still records. Cool. But there's still a problem here. I don't know if that's going to start interfering or if that's going to be a new issue that I have to resolve. And I tried with the display, like left, like because you can actually touch the screen and it does shift around a bit. So there is that aspect to it, but nothing. Nothing was popping up on the screen that would indicate that it's okay to use unless you're looking at the screen of their computer and watching the audio being picked up. And I'm like, okay, crap, now what do I do? I find out that through the actual app itself that I downloaded that there is a support center. Like you can email or call them. I'm not about to call them because I just wasn't about to call and get charged for some long distance just to figure some shit out. I ended up emailing them. Ironically enough, within the next, what was it, like 4 hours or something, they actually responded. I can also say between the day that I called them, I think it was a Saturday. I called them on a Saturday. I got it resolved roughly Sunday was when, actually no, between Friday to Sunday was when the issue happened. I couldn't get the screen to work at all or focus. Contacted Anchor support, gave them the whole breakdown of what went down, what happened, everything I'd done up until that point. They gave me all the information that they could to figure out how to reset, restart, or even factory reset the actual hardware itself from the actual application. I did all that. Didn't do a thing. I told them, and they even said, okay, since we're clearly currently having issues with it, if you could record yourself and show us what you've done so far and show us what the issue is. I literally had a little trouble with getting that because like when recording off my phone, there's only like, and again, I had to email this video footage to Anchor support to begin with. So, and I found out the hard way that when you're emailing videos, they can't be more than I think they can't be more than 30 seconds a piece. So I had to basically record a couple of different versions and even shrink down the size of the recording to actually be able to send it over. So I sent them all that. I think, and then I believe it was specifically Sunday morning when I get an email back from them saying we've received all your information. They asked for all the basics like the original receipt, the address it was sent to, all that good stuff. We sent all that to them, and they straight up sent me a new receiver. Like it didn't take a whole lot. It didn't take a whole lot of like I think it took them at least 2 days to process the shipping out of the new receiver, and then maybe 3 to 4 days in total. Like I think it was basically last week on Thursday or Friday that I basically received the actual thing from them in the mail, or just literally showed up at my doorstep. So, yay. But now I literally can be like, this is literally the new receiver. That's the active like screen right there, and it's working perfectly fine. And I've already updated it too. I plugged it in the same day I got it, updated it and everything. And I didn't actually get around to testing it out. Like all I did was basically update the firmware, make sure it was like with the receiver on that it was picking up my audio, did all that, but I did not record anything. And then ironically enough, then they ended up emailing a follow-up especially, and they asked like, hey, let us know how how the new piece is working for you. Because I actually found out, actually no, to reel back a little bit. So when I found out that it wasn't in fact lighting up anymore, I believe it was after all that had happened on the Monday after getting all that information from Anchor, and the screen was still active but not displaying anything, I took the extra step and I hopped onto, like, using my desktop. I was going to actually record. Whoops. I was actually going to record off my webcam specifically and record this podcast essentially off my computer through the camera app on my computer, while having the Anchor plugged directly into my desktop. Lo and behold, it wasn't working anymore, even with all the updates and everything I'd done to it. Whatever happened to it, where it completely blacked out the screen, only allowed for me to do one test recording with it alongside Rima, and then after that, it just went kaputs. Like I turned it on, I had everything proper. Nothing was being picked up by the actual receiver itself. Like this was transmitting, but this wasn't even operating at all. I don't know why, it just wasn't. I even had a moment where, like, the initial recording I'd done on the computer, I didn't like again, the screen was black. I didn't bloody know that it was active but not active, if you get my drift. The receiver wasn't even on the first couple seconds of the recording until I realized that, and I had to redo it on the desktop. The second time around, I actually remembered to turn on the receiver and make sure that this was I had to make sure that the transmitter was actually on and that the receiver itself was at least active for the very least. And I didn't think at all. I didn't think to test it out on Audacity, nothing. I recorded a full, what was it, like 45 minutes long of just me explaining this whole ordeal that I'm doing with you guys now there. I figured, oh no, it's definitely recording me. It's definitely recording me. I end off that recording. I listened back to the footage, not a damn bit of audio was picked up. I'm like, I boot up Audacity. Now again, Audacity's working fine from last I checked it, alongside Rima, even though the screen went ghost on me for whatever reason. I hit record on Audacity, and wouldn't you know it, lo and behold, even on Audacity, it's not recording audio anymore. It had officially gone kaputs on me. And that kind of sucked, because I was kind of hoping to at least get some extra put in. Like, I don't know, I wanted to give you guys the whole initial story at that point, but I somehow managed to do almost a full hour's recording on that one, but it still didn't record any audio. So I tossed in the towel for that day, and I just said, I'm just gonna wait for the day that the receiver actually comes in the mail properly, and then try it again. And then when it finally did come in the mail, I think I have a box laying around here somewhere if I didn't already toss the. Hold that thought. No, I think I already checked it. Never mind. My point still stands. So basically, they sent me like a rectangular box with a little square cut in the middle where they had the receiver wrapped, the new receiver wrapped in like bubble wrap, basically. Yeah, and then after I received it, I think it was like less than a day after I had received it. Didn't even try it out yet, because I was planning on maybe doing a fuller length podcast, or a podcast talking about this whole predicament with Rima later on the weekend. Um, and I never clued in, but like they emailed me saying, hey, keep in mind, this is also predominantly me telling you guys right now that if you do go as far as to invest in your own anchor work mic, not only if you do go to a different separate like type of hardware altogether, customer service is a very high key point with a lot of different services. And I could honestly say the fact that within a weekend's time, I was not only assisted, but then they also sent me a replacement receiver for my anchor to begin with was awesome, first of all. And secondly, the fact that they even followed up less than a week after, like they basically gave it plenty of time for it to actually show up and for me to essentially have like an opportunity to test it out. Then they went as far as to email me saying, hey, how is the product working so far? How are you liking the soft? How are you like? How is it treating you so far? Like, is it working? Is everything up to snuff again? And I'm like, oh wow, that's actually really cool. Like, I would have just assumed like they would have sent me some little survey or whatever. No, they flat out like literally reached out to me. And most companies ideally are supposed to do that, but some don't always do that. But the fact that they went out of their way, and I'm not sure. I'm personally, I'm not really sure how popular Anchor is as a general whole, but I can honestly say that after my experience with them, I would highly recommend anyone out there who's either, if you record vlogs on the go, if you do interviews for certain companies, if you podcast on the side like myself, I'd highly recommend you go out, grab yourself an Anchor work mic. This one, they have a bunch of different hardware, especially for the company too. So definitely check that out. I haven't really done much browsing for because I don't really need all their products. I only really ever required was the mic itself to replace the old setup I had. But I even had a point where I was like, when I initially had that moment where I realized that the software was sorry that the transmitter and the receiver were no longer working compatibly together, I literally had a thought process to bring back my old setup that I'm probably going to keep around for the next little while as well. Because I originally was planning on getting rid of it, like the old mic that I had, the analog with the Focusrite interface. I still have the damn thing. I was debating getting rid of it, but considering what happened with the anchor work, I'm like, it's taught me one thing: better to have a backup than none at all. So, with that being said, that's been it for this podcast. It was mostly just me telling you what's gone on, what's been going on, and that there's been some mild technical difficulties, but it wouldn't be like you guys will really notice, considering between the fact of me having recorded the last one with Mike up until this one, I didn't update you guys at all. So this is like an update and a podcast where I'm like basically like, hey, some went down, and then we fixed it, yay. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. It's a bit more shorter, but it is what it is. And hopefully more stuff happens in the future, and then me and Reema can sit down and talk about that. But until then, guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed this podcast. As always, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe if you're even enjoying any of the stuff so far. Until then, guys, take care.